So guys, welcome back to the Arsenal podcast, and of course we are back at it again, right? We are back at it again. Don't forget to smash the like button. 200 likes, that is fair enough. 200 to 1k, that is fair enough, right? I have a couple of stories to talk about, especially the transfers. The first transfer video I'm doing today. Thanks everybody who joined me earlier today on the match reaction. Arsenal against Liverpool, the worst game we have ever played. The worst game we have ever played in the last last couple of months. But anyway, let's get to speak to some of the transfer rumors that are around us, especially Mikel Arteta's reaction, and one of the journalists who works with Beign Sports really saying something so cheeky about how Semo was, deal. It could materialize. I love the confidence. We're going to be talking about that. So don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to your Arsenal podcast as well. So yesterday, as Mikel Arteta, was trying to lie to us about the humiliating defeat, why we lost, and so much more, and the transfers, what they are doing in the transfers, and giving us his PR as a manager now, his head manager. So you expect him not to be on our side, but on the side of the club. And that's what he's really doing these days. He's no longer speaking as as person concerned about the fans when it comes to the Arsenal business. He talks as the person who is really concerned about the reputation of the club and the reputation of the board, and trying to cover up what the board is doing wrong and so on. He's not the Mikel Arteta we knew, who we saw when he had just signed for us, and he was a different kind of manager. All of us thought, we had got a different kind of manager, a man who could actually, stand in the transfer, panelist of journalists, and he would tell them that, we need this and this and this, we are lacking in these areas, and we should, I need these and these reinforcements if we are going to do better. That's the kind of manager he was when he had just signed for us. But he's changing because of, I know because of his, new position, head manager. It really calls for a lot of PR, and it's going to be giving us a lot of propaganda. So he was talking about the transfers and our performance yesterday, and he said, the players worked hard and they were really, annoyed because of the loss. And he said, he would love to see his players annoyed after a loss, so that they can actually try to bounce back in the next game. Something I wouldn't say is bad enough, but of course, it looks like a good, crafted PR statement. When he was talking about transfers, of course, he said that we have a week to go, and so we still have a lot of time, to look and bring in more players. He said, they are looking around for possible reinforcements and addition to the club. So probably, if they can get in, the players they want, they'll be getting them in. And of course, he's also said that in the coming week, we'll be letting out some players to go, and we'll also be bringing in some players. So he did particularly, point out that he's going to be talking, bringing in this one, or he's going to bring in a player in such and such a position. But you can see, like I said, he's doing a lot of PR these days. He's doing a lot of defensive communication for the board, and a lot of defensive communication when it comes to the Arsenal brand and so on. So I don't think the fans are really interested in in his words, because he's no longer as sharp as a needle as he was when he had just signed for Arsenal. Because then he was very open and very point blank. He said, I remember him saying that this is a club that really needs big signings. This is a club that needs to to change players, and ASAP we need to change our attitude. I remember him saying all those things, and I was really quite contented that maybe we got in the right man for the job. But right now he's changing so much because he has had a new job as manager, and probably that's the reason as to why his statements have become a little bit more quirky and shaky when it comes to the eyes of the fans. But anyway, transfer update about Aouar now. Yesterday after the game, there was so much to talk about. How Aouar, the midfield shambles. You guys saw how our midfield was really dominated yesterday. I even got confused, and I also asked myself, is it true that we need one player to rectify all this ruckus and mess that is in the Arsenal squad, or do we need a whole lot of transfer signings, maybe 100, maybe 200 players, to rectify the team. But maybe I've been talking to some of the fans on the on the match reaction show, and you guys seem very convinced that if we got Thomas Partey and Aouar, that would be the best combination in the midfield. I don't know what others think, but go in the comment box and tell me your opinion about that. Now, after the game, there was some reactions from journalists, and of course, as you know, a couple of stories, post-match, blogs and blogs, and one journalist in the names of Derradji, Hafid Derradji, works with Beign Sports, said that the mind and head of Aouar is already in England. There is not much both clubs need to do. You get me? There is not much both clubs need to do for the deal to materialize. You get me? He said, Aouar's head is already in England. There is not much both clubs need to do. And he says, just a little effort from both clubs and the transfer will materialize. Just to be more specific, Football.London wrote it like this. According to the Express, Beign Sports presenter and commentator Hafid Derradji says not much needs to be done to make the transfer happen. Derradji tweeted, Aouar is London in the head. A little effort from both clubs and the transfer will materialize. Arsenal legend Ian Wright said they must sign someone like Aouar to reignite their midfield. So I think that's a couple of that's a reliever, right? It's a reliever because it has been very very abstract and ambiguous for us to break down what's the real situation between Arsenal and Lyon, because we know the situation between Aouar and Arsenal, right? Because at least some personal terms are leaked that they were agreed, and at least some of the basic journalists have said it, that they are not the personal terms are not the problem. Probably will be signing a 5-year contract with 100k wages a week, which will be increasing, of course, as his performance improves over the time. But this statement from Hafid Derradji, for me it means Arsenal delaying this deal. It means we are the party that is delaying this deal, because it looks like Lyon are already convinced that they are not going to get the money they would want from the player, and so they have already decided that if a bid comes in the region of 45 to 50 million, we are going to sit down and discuss. And Michael Aouar said something very interesting. He said there was a bid too small. You understand? He said there was a bid that is from Arsenal. There was a bid for Aouar too small, not even susceptible to make us sell. So that means we are the only people who are delaying this deal, and we have always been the people who have been delaying our deals, because in most cases I don't remember so many times where Arsenal has applied to buy or sign a player and the club says we are not willing to sell. There are not so many times. Maybe Karim Benzema at Real Madrid, because Madrid looked like they never wanted to sell, so they had to put all the stumbling blocks. What else? Who else? So in most cases, it's Arsenal blocking their own deals, and even in this one, we are not even any better. So Hafid Derradji would say that just a little more effort and the deal will materialize. But he forgets one thing, that Arsenal is not willing to put in that that little effort, and that's what I've been telling you in the match reaction, guys. That instead of you telling me that we need Partey and Aouar, you would rather tell me that we need a player of this caliber in such and such a position, because that makes me feel better. That makes me feel like, you know, at least we're not going for anyone, but we know what we need. But specifically talking about Partey and Aouar, those are deals that you know, are on the line, and we are not really sure if they are going to get off the line, right? So it's a disappointing, you know, start to the week. Disappointing start, especially if you have a couple of you know, hard games, and you know, it's the end of the transfer window. At least if we had started with the point at the Anfield, then you go to you still go back to the Anfield in the FA Cup and maybe grab a win. You have Sheffield United on Sunday, if you can get a win as well, and then, you know, signing more 2 players. I think that would be the perfect week. But this, you know, these 7 days, although Mikel Arteta says it's a week to go, it's no longer a week to go, because now today is Tuesday. There isn't any news that the player is actually very close to joining Arsenal now. So that means one day is gone, we are still at the same position, and Leon is getting frustrated day by day. Probably they will think about, you know, selling another player like Memphis Depay, raise some money, and they're like, let us sell him at 20 more million next season, because that's when most, you know, Champions League clubs are going to come back to the market. Most people have not really bought so many players, right? The Madrids, the Juventuses, the Barcelonas, they want to sign, but maybe the financial constraints won't let them. So probably they'll come for him next summer, and they'll be willing to offer, as, you know, twice as much as, you know, he's costing right now. So probably he will be an Arsenal fan. I mean, an Arsenal player. Probably he will not be. But I think that, you know, Hafid Derradji says his head is in London. I think I've had this statement before with Manchester United when I was still reporting for Manchester United. I think it was a German journalist very close to BVB who said Jadon Sancho's head is in Manchester. And until now, his head is in Manchester and his body is playing at Dortmund. So, you know, don't get carried away. I know Derradji is credible, works with Beign, has a lot of experience, is very close to, you know, contacts and so on. But still, it wouldn't bother me. It wouldn't bother me that, you know, he's saying that his head is in London, because we have always known that. We have always known that, you know, Usema, you know, would want to join Arsenal. And his agents have been in talks. He has already told his agents and representatives and personal terms. But is Arsenal really willing to get him at all costs? Because that's what, you know, Jean-Michel Aouar said, that the player would want to join them, but they do not want to activate the asking price. They don't want to meet the asking price of the player. Same goes to Thomas Partey. He's a fan. He wants to play for us. He's, you know, willing to sacrifice his Champions League and all the things that, you know, the privileges he has at Atletico Madrid. But we cannot go for him because we feel we are being cheated. We feel it's, you know, the high prices. 6 days to go. 6 days to go. I don't think I'll be streaming any transfer news video, because I don't think there is much to talk about when it comes to transfers. But anyway, I'll be dropping another video after this one in 3 hours. So make sure you check it up. Don't also forget to smash the like button to 200. That's all. Scotland Mustafi agreed personal terms with Lazio. I told you that. He's trending. I think Lazio could get him at around 10 million if that deal could materialize. And then Lucas Torreira also materializes. We sold Emi Martinez. Probably there will be no excuses for Stan Kroenke to tell us that he cannot give us money to buy more players. What do you think? Get in the comments and tell me what you think about the transfer window, because it's really making me sick. I'm out of this place anyway.